The tributes continue to pour in for former President Jimmy Carter's funeral. We're beginning to learn details about his funeral arrangements. Hello, everybody. I'm Nikki Zizaza.
And I'm Stefan Dingle. Welcome to those of you watching us on CBS News Baltimore here on WJZ TV. His family has accepted an invitation for the former president to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol.
Christiane Benavides reports for WJZ from the Carter Center in Atlanta.
The office of President of the United States.
Jimmy Carter completed a single term in the Oval Office, but fulfilled a lifetime of service to fellow Americans and people around the world.
Carter's style was to get to know families and to soften people as human beings, whoever they may be.
That approach helped seal the historic Camp David Accords during his presidency, and Carter carried it with him on humanitarian missions abroad and at home, including building houses for Habitat for Humanity.
I have this freedom to do things that I like to do and that an official of the U.S. government or the United Nations cannot do.
U.S. flags are flying at half-staff for 30 days in Carter's honor. If health and circumstances permit, all former U.S. presidents are expected to attend Carter's state funeral in Washington next week, with January 9th declared a national day of mourning. The public tributes will begin with an observance here at the Carter Center in Atlanta, where Americans are already turning out to pay their respects to the 39th president.
When you see the flowers, you see the gifts, it's just a good reminder that when you're a good, decent person and do the right thing, that people will remember you well.
The way that he thinks about service is something that, I've always looked up to and admired.
The Carter Center was a passion project working to advance human rights, promote peace, and fight disease while influencing U.S. policy.
I carry and they carry in their hearts the principles that the Carters lived by: human dignity, human rights, freedom, democracy, elections, and alleviation of suffering.
Carter's journey will end where it began, in Plains, Georgia, where he will be privately laid to rest alongside his wife outside their home. Christiane Benavides, CBS News, Atlanta.
Christiane, thank you. Well, Americans of all ages and political backgrounds are remembering Jimmy Carter tonight.
Yeah, last year when he entered hospice, we sent WJZ investigator Mike Hallgren to his hometown of Plains, Georgia, where people spoke fondly of the former president.
He cared about people that much, where he wanted to talk about your vacation or how your family was doing. He didn't want to talk about worldly politics and things like that.
We're all family, man, and Mr. Jimmy's right in there with us, but he just does anything for anybody when he could.
Well lived. The former president was surrounded by family when he passed away, according to the Carter Center.
But it's been 2 years since he began receiving hospice care.
Ashley Paul joins us now in studio to help us understand hospice care and what the president's final days may have been like. Ashley, good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening, Stefan, Nikki. I've been reassured that President Carter's final days and months were likely peaceful and comfortable after speaking with the director of palliative care at St. Joe's Medical Center. But there are many misconceptions surrounding hospice care that she was also able to clear up.
A patient and their family has realized that their body is approaching the end and that their goal is to spend their time doing what's important to them and being with loved ones.
And that's exactly how President Jimmy Carter spent his final days, at home with his family. Dr. Helen Gordon, director of palliative care at St. Joe's Medical Center, says the whole point of hospice care is to allow terminal patients to live the rest of their lives comfortably outside the hospital setting.
We created a system which most of the time works really well to provide excellent home care for people in the last weeks and months of their life.
President Carter began receiving hospice care back in February of 2023, which is an unusually long amount of time, according to Gordon. She says a patient typically begins receiving hospice care when a clinician believes they have less than 6 months left to live.
If the hospice is still seeing a decline and it looks like that person may still pass away of natural causes within that period, they keep seeing the person.
She says hospice patients typically are reevaluated every 3 months to see if they still qualify. So in the case of President Carter, while he remained on hospice care for longer than the average patient, his health was still likely on the decline over the last 2 years. But she finds peace of mind knowing Carter's doctors, like she and her colleagues, did a great job at making sure those last 2 years remained peaceful.
I've listened, I think we all have, to Jimmy Carter saying that he was at peace for when the time came. So yes, I do very much believe that he was comfortable.
Now, public services will be held in the coming days in Atlanta and Washington, D.C. President Joe Biden has also declared January 9th a national day of mourning in President Carter's memory. Stefan, back to you.
All right, Ashley, thank you. Be sure to stick with WJZ as we continue to remember the extraordinary life of former President Jimmy Carter. We will have more throughout the show and coming up at 6:30 on the CBS Evening News.